Afternoon conference. I'm very pleased that Steve explained why Gerard couldn't be here because I thought perhaps you'd be a bit disappointed. You'd have seen this person come up on the stage and think, goodness me, hasn't Gerard let himself go? But you're stuck with me. The reason is Gerard is actually doing some interviews for, I think, the Sunday Politics. We already know the truth. It's far more important that he spreads the truth to the British people. But I'm going to, nevertheless, work on the research that he's done. The Home Secretary is preening herself about the fact that Britain is going to opt out of 100 out of 135 European criminal justice measures, which are, in essence, going to create a corpus juris. But unfortunately, of the 35, there are many significant things which are going to infringe on our rights. Now, we've heard quite a lot about the European arrest warrant in the past. I'm not going to go into it in great detail, simply to remind you of the list of horrific persecution of people. Let's remember the names of Andrew Symeou, Dr. Mizoso, Edmund Arapi, Gary Mann, Deborah Park, and Patrick Connor, amongst others. But it goes from the sinister to the absurd. The House of Commons Home Affairs Committee produced their 9th report on EU police and justice measures for the 2013-14 session, and it says this at paragraph 16. Examples of the European arrest warrant have included extraditions to Poland in connection with exceeding a credit card limit, piglet rustling, and the theft of a wheelbarrow, some wardrobe doors, a small teddy bear, and a pudding. Outrageous. Now, this goes from the sinister to the absurd, and it's probably quite interesting to bear in mind what Tim Farron, who is apparently the president of the Liberal Democrats, has said. He has said, the European arrest warrant is a vital weapon in the fight against crime. And he has also said, and this is a direct quote, the Liberal Democrats are adamant that we will not allow the Tories to put their Euroscepticism ahead of the safety of the British people. Well, that's all fine and dandy, isn't it? But bearing in mind that they are going to have no MEPs whatsoever after the 22nd of May, it's going to be down to us to make sure that the British body politic is back on course. And the first of these horrible organisations that I'm going to refer to is Eurojust, which is a backdoor into the European Public Prosecutor's Office. Now, the government has announced that it's going to opt out of the European Public Prosecutor's Office, but the government is also going to opt in to Eurojust, which amounts to exactly the same thing. It's certainly seen in Brussels that way. And this is probably getting a bit technical and a bit tedious. Please try to stay awake. I know the bar's shut, so hopefully you won't be too dozy at this time. But Eurojust is a college of 27 prosecutors, magistrates or police officers, one from each member state, which is on call 24 hours a day. And each national member has the legal powers to order arrests, searches, seizures, interrogations, surveillance, freezing or monitoring of bank accounts, confiscations, and electronic tagging in their own countries on an EU instrument. I do stress, ladies and gentlemen, these people are not judges. All sensitive data from UK police databases will eventually be available to the European Public Prosecutor via Eurojust, and the prosecutor will be able to exercise the powers enshrined in European arrest warrants, also European investigation orders, European supervision orders, and other mutual recognition instruments over British citizens. It is said that the European Public Prosecutor's Office will be, quote, responsible for investigating, prosecuting, and bringing to judgment, where appropriate in liaison with Europol, the perpetrators of and accomplices in any serious crimes having cross-border implications. Well, we have an example of this. In March 2010, the Spanish presidency of the EU said that the Greek debt crisis had highlighted the need for the EU to have coordinated legal response against speculators attacking the euro. Naturally, it doesn't have any intrinsic weaknesses. It's simply because these speculators are attacking it. But the Spanish Attorney General said, and here's another direct quote, "The existence of an area with a single currency requires a single institution to implement laws to protect its economic interests. Doubtless, if there were a public prosecutor and there was a combined attack against the single currency, the prosecutor could coordinate the legal response vis-à-vis that attack." So, in essence, this is suggesting that the European Public Prosecutor would use his formidable powers to regulate the economy by means of criminal law. But you can bet your bottom dollar that there will be no criminal proceedings brought against the European Central Bank for stealing the savings of the people in Cyprus in order to prop up the euro. It is very much a one-way street. And the government has also, the British government that is, has also indicated that they will opt into Europol. Well, Europol is not actually a police force per se, it's a criminal intelligence agency, a bit like the FBI or the UK National Criminal Intelligence Service. But it employs over 1,000 staff, and this is the important thing. They enjoy immunity from prosecution or civil lawsuits in relation to everything they do or say as Europol officers, with just one technical exception. I've forgotten what that exception is, but it is insignificant. Not even the Prime Minister of this country, not even senior police officers in this country are immune from criminal prosecution or civil claims being brought against them. This is a dark and disturbing movement. Now, it was originally founded in 1992 as the Europol Drugs Unit, but its remit has been steadily widening. And since 2010, it's had power to investigate any organised crime, terrorism, and a further 24 very ill-defined crimes, which include racism, xenophobia, and computer crime. Now, we wouldn't be surprised if racism was extended to include opposition to our current unlimited immigration. We only heard yesterday that it has gone back up under David Cameron. Forget about the net figures, the gross figures are in excess of 500,000 people a year. Xenophobia, well, that might well amount to opposition to the EU. I hope you've all got your lawyers ready, ladies and gentlemen. And computer crime could quite easily affect websites such as WikiLeaks. And an EU Council document of 16th of April 2010 instructs Europol to build a database, quote, on the processes of radicalisation in the EU in order to generate lists of those involved in radicalising, recruiting or transmitting radicalising messages and to take appropriate steps. This amounts to spying on political activists. Young independents, you watch your backs. I have the orange light here, so I will leave out the final thing, but I'll merely refer to this. The Home Secretary, you'll remember at the time of the riots, she was very keen to point out that in this country we are policed by consent. What that means is the police are the public and the public are the police. And when he set up the Metropolitan Police, Robert Peel had 9 principles, and one of them is these. Police fulfilment of their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions and behaviour, and on their ability to secure and maintain public interest. Well, as a party, we will not consent to this policing from the EU, and far more important, we cannot advise the British public to consent to this policing from the EU. The consequences of this are very significant indeed. Think again, Home Secretary.